Dolphins fans, what's going on? Ben Morgan, Fins Up Network. Say, I've been talking about doing this video for a couple of days now, and I meant to get it out on Tuesday. I was gonna prep and record it on Monday night. Obviously, the Damar Hamler stuff happened, and just really wasn't in the mood. Kind of gave us Dolphins fans that feeling we had when Tua got hurt against the Bengals. So that day was shot. So I am recording this now. Don't want to glance over the Damar Hamlin thing. Hopefully, everything turns out well with him. We'll have to see how the upcoming weekend games all play out and everything. But what a scary injury, and hopefully everything's all right with him, his family, and the Bills organization moving forward. But I wanted to talk about this Mike McDaniel stuff today here because we're doing that thing now as fans where the playoffs looked like the guaranteed thing, and now we're sliding at the worst absolute point to the point in time where, you know what, that we might not even make the playoffs at this point in time. So one's promising season is now 1 week away from potentially being over. And what's the natural human thing to do? We look for someone to blame. So it's Sunday night. I do the worst absolute possible thing. Scroll through Twitter. I expect to see blame after that Dolphins Patriots game. I expect to see it everywhere. Instead, I'm seeing so much of this blame being thrown at one person, and that one person is Coach Mike McDaniel. Now, I'm not saying that Mike McDaniel or any one person or thing should go blameless in this collapse. Please don't get me wrong on that. There is plenty and plenty and plenty of blame to go around from ownership to management to coaching to players. Hell, on Twitter, I saw people throwing shade at the Miami Dolphins strength and conditioning team due to all the injuries. So trust me, there is a lot of blame going around. But the thing that I just couldn't fathom, and the reason I'm making today's video is because I'm seeing people say that Mike McDaniel shouldn't last beyond this season as the Dolphins head coach. Or if he does last this season, that he should be on the hot seat immediately starting already next year. And that's where I have the issue with everything because people want to shoulder that much blame on this collapse on a first year head coach, a first year play caller, on a guy that's not even responsible for the actual execution of the plays on the field. So I want to dive into this issue a little bit here. But as always, I want to hear from you. I like to hear the opposite side of things. So if you agree with me, obviously I'm pro Mike McDaniel. I'd like to hear that. But at the end of the day, if you've got takes that contradict mine, that's not an instantly we're completely on the opposite ends of this, or we can't have a discussion. So go ahead. I'd like to hear from all points of view because maybe there's things that I'm missing. So go ahead, drop your thoughts, drop your comments, and we can carry it on from there. But this all kind of started because I put out a tweet on Sunday night when I was hearing all that stuff about Mike McDaniel and shouldering all of this blame and being on the hot seat, potentially getting fired yet this year. I put out this tweet and it said, I'm seeing way too much Mike McDaniel slander. It's year one. There are going to be growing pains. There are going to be mistakes. There are going to be learning opportunities, but you can't possibly execute your desired scheme when playing with as many reserves as Miami is. Now, I had more thoughts than that, which I'm going to talk about in this video, but I thought that kind of summarized it to a point. And wow, there's a lot of people that agreed with me. Don't get me wrong, more agreed than not. But the backlash that I received was very interesting and very telling because the backlash I received was two things. One, injuries can't and will not be an excuse that we can use. And two, Mike McDaniel is responsible for too many of the little mistakes that are happening that head coaches shouldn't make at this point in time, regardless of how long they've been coaching. The play calling, the penalties, the lack of adjustments, so on and so forth. So I'm going to start by saying this. Those arguments are perfectly acceptable. I'm with you to an extent on both of them. Injuries happen to every single team in the NFL, but yet, yes, teams find ways to win. I'm going to come back to that point. I'm not going to lose that point. And two, I'm right there with you. I've been talking about it on every one of my recap videos when we lose the game. I hate that the plays come in late. I hate that this team is the most penalized team in the league. But let me tell you this. These issues that we're identifying here today, these are correctable issues that come with two things. And those two things are time and health. Now, let me tell you what I mean by that. Let's start with the motion penalties. Getting plays called in late. That issue. Let's talk about that. I'm going to start with the obvious. Mike McDaniel, first-time head coach, first-time play caller, and now he's doing both of these jobs simultaneously. What we're seeing right now in year one, this is the floor. This is as worst as it's going to get. What we're seeing right now in regards to that execution, it's not going to get any worse than that. It's only going to get better from that. He's going to get experience. He's going to get better at performing these tasks, performing them simultaneously, and eventually it's not going to be a concern to anyone. Let me ask you this. Were you flawless at your job after 10 months? We got to give this guy a minute. That's what I'm trying to say there. We went from fans that wanted to microwave cook our quarterback to now that they're wanting to do it with our head coach as well. We're talking about a guy that got us out to an 8-3 start with one of the most potent offenses in the league when Tua was healthy, setting receiving records with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Tua was in the MVP discussion. What I'm seeing here in this backlash on Twitter is a brand new level of the microwave era, the microwave society. It is crazy. Now, I want to get back to that health and injuries portion of this as well. Because, yes, I said injuries can't be blamed. They can't be the sole reason for this season failing. I get that to an extent. Let's put some things in perspective here and attempt to understand how injuries play a role in penalties, scheme, and performance. So these are all going to sort of blend together in a way, but I'm going to start specifically with scheme. And let's use the most recent example, the Sunday game against the Patriots. You go into that game with Kendall Lamb as your starting left tackle. Now, not only is Kendall Lamb not an all-pro, top-tier caliber left tackle like Teron Armstead is, but he was literally signed to this team a matter of weeks ago and just got elevated, just got signed to the active roster from the practice squad, a week ago? You're now going to call plays that don't take as much time to develop, which limits the amount of deep intermediate passes that you can throw to the guys like Tyreek Hill, like Jalen Waddle. It's going to limit their effectiveness overall. What else are you going to use? You're going to utilize tight ends. You're going to use running backs to chip and double edge rushers on that side specifically. What does that mean? Well, that equates to less players that the defense has to account for as potential pass catchers because they're busy blocking to help out a guy like Kendall Lamb. So that's already a sizable shift that you're making in scheme and in game plan due to one player. Now, let's take a look at how these injuries and penalties are tied together, specifically in this offense as well. When it comes to the offensive game plan and scheme, because Mike McDaniel's offense is timing based. We know that. But due to the pre-snap motion and the advantages he attempts to create before the ball is even snapped, timing based in regards to that motion and other pre-snap movement and audibles. It's all timing based, both after the snap and pre-snap. Remember this offseason, Tyreek Hill said he has never experienced an offense that's as complex as Mike McDaniel. So you remember when he was talking about that, how everything is calculated, everything happens for a reason, everything builds off one another in this offense. These aren't just simple concepts. These aren't simply things that anyone can come in and just run. We have an in-house example of that. Why hasn't Eric Ezukama been active for a single game this year? Well, based on the reports that we hear every single week, the mental side of things. He's got the physical tools. He could be out there, but he's not getting it done on the mental side of things. And that's a guy that's been with this team since day one of Mike McDaniel era, essentially. So now you got these backup players that are playing more snaps than we anticipated. And you got practice squad guys that are getting called up and playing meaningful snaps that, yes, they've had some practice time. And yes, that they're professionals. So we assume that they should know what they're doing. But it is absolutely 100% not the same as these guys that have been getting first team reps all offseason and first team reps all season and first team reps even in that practice. We're talking about inserting these guys halfway through a game at some point in time. These timing issues is so important. We've got to expect communication issues in the defensive secondary right now. Look at all the new faces. We should expect some motion penalties on offense due to the lack of timing with these new faces. We've got to expect improvised game plans because we're playing with all these new faces. Now look at what Mike McDaniel has done in year one already. Offensive side of the ball specifically, with what is statistically still not even a great offensive line. I would say that it's not even a good offensive line yet statistically. And quarterback one with Tua missing extended periods of time. Yards per game this year, 6th at 368. Last year we were 25th. Passing yards per game, we're 3rd at 273. Last year we were 17th. Points per game, 10th. Last year we were 22nd. Do you remember playing on third down offensively last year? More often than not, we should have just punted the damn ball. What are we doing now? Especially when we were in the height of this offense clicking, it did not even matter the distance. We felt confident that third and whatever it is, we are going to pick it up. That was a thing. Remember Brian Flores? Third down, like I said, you should have just punted. And what would he do on fourth down? Unless the game was on the line late in the fourth quarter, he was punting. Mike McDaniel is so confident in himself, in his players, in the scheme, in the ability of these guys. He goes for it on fourth down without hesitation, and he's making it more often than not. This guy has given the Miami Dolphins offense a complete 180 in literally less than a year. Now, here's one other thing, because if you subscribe to the idea that it's Tyreek, it's Jalen Waddle, and they're the only reason this offense is having success this year, well, then we're too far gone. I can't help you at that point. I've already talked long enough in this video, and I'm not going to get how, yes, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are great. They help immensely. But to think Mike McDaniel isn't a huge reason for this offensive success, for this team success, like I said, then this video probably just isn't for you. But one more thing I do want to hit on before I wrap up, kind of going back to the injury side of things, because based on the feedback that I received, like I said, in that tweet, it was a lot of, well, San Francisco's doing pretty damn well. They're doing just fine with their third quarterback. Well, I'd ask you this. Have you seen the San Francisco 49ers defense? Their defense is so good, they can afford for their offense to adapt a little bit because guess what? They're not forced to get out on a shootout on a week-to-week basis in order to win a game. Their defense is their number one strength. Conversely, our defense is arguably our number one weakness. Look at these numbers from the 49ers. Second in total yards allowed per game, first in points allowed per game. Pretty good, right? We're 20th in yards allowed per game and 27th in points allowed per game. We're not comparing apples to apples when we're talking about teams and how they can overcome injuries right here. Find me a playoff team that has had these kind of injury issues to these key players. Tua, quarterback one. Teron Armstead, Austin Jackson, left and right tackle. Liam Eichenberg, left guard. Emmanuel Ogbah, defensive end number one. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Trill Williams, Brandon Jones. That's cornerback 1, 2, 3, 4 in your starting safety. So you find me a team that's played extended periods of time without their quarterback, starting left tackle, right tackle, left guard, their defensive end, their first, second, third, and fourth cornerbacks, and your starting safety. So no, injuries cannot be the only excuse. I hear you. But let's chill on the idea of attempting to fire or put a first-time head coach on the hot seat when he has us essentially one game away from the playoffs with everything that I just listed out there. So, you know what? I guess that's my rant for the day. Went longer than I wanted to, but like I said, I do want to hear from you as well. I'm okay with having a conversation as long as we keep it civil. So if you have differing opinions, that's cool. Drop them in the comments. We can carry on the conversation there. Like I said, it went long enough for today, so I'll wrap it right there. I'll be back throughout the week with previews leading up to that Week 18 video or game against the Jets, and we can take it from there, Dolphins fans. So until next time, fins up.